You! Your offspring. Offspring? Yes, yes! We recall replicating.
How you doing, sweetheart? Gang! It has been over a year and a half since I've gone out and saw a movie in theaters. The last movie I ever saw in theaters was Sonic the Hedgehog, which was, not a good note to end things on. Oh, I can't forget to turn on the cactus. Now, you may be wondering, hey, why haven't you gone out to the movie theaters in over a year and a half? And to that I say, you fucking kidding me? So the other day I decided, you know what? I've been good. It's been long enough. I've taken the proper precautions to go and see the outside world again. I'm going back to the movies, baby! And so I did. I went out and I saw Venom, Let There Be Carnage. And was it a worthy movie to return to the theaters with? Uh-oh, Matt couldn't go more than 10 minutes without ruining something for somebody again. It's a surprise, I know. I mean, look at how positive all my other videos have been. Fuck! I can't do it. I can't do it, man. I can't fucking do it. How's it going, gang? I'm Matt Henderson. Today we're going to be talking about Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. For those of you that know me from my What Even Was series, hi. This isn't a Transformers video. I know it's been a while since I've made one of those. I will talk about where the next one is at the end of this video. But thank you for stopping by. And for those of you that are new here, hi, I'm Matt Henderson, and I like to talk about movies, which means yes, your suspicions are correct. I am your least favorite person at the party. But do please consider subscribing anyways. Now, before we get into this, I know there's going to be some fans of this movie watching this video, and if you were one of those fans, that's great. I'm glad you liked the movie. My opinions may differ a little bit from yours, and that's totally fine. My opinions on the movie are not a reflection of my thoughts or feelings towards its fans, so when I go on to express my thoughts about the movie, please do not take any of it as a personal attack, because I promise it's not. Also, I want to be clear, I didn't hate this movie, I just didn't really like it. There were some good things about it that I will go on to talk about, but there was a lot more flaws that kind of tipped the scale a bit. Look, I was one of those people that thought a Venom movie without Spider-Man being a part of his origin wouldn't work, and for the most part, I still feel that way. I think the idea of Venom going from being a bad guy to being conflicted and wanting to be a good guy is far more interesting than him being a good guy from the beginning and going from there. I didn't really have any strong feelings about the first movie. I got to the end of it and all I really had to say on it was, that wasn't a very good movie. But now, there's a sequel, which means that we can dive a little bit deeper on the character and understanding this world and giving it a little bit more depth. We can dive a little bit deeper into the Venom lore, and I watched the sequel, and you know what I have to say on it? It wasn't a very good movie.
Gonna cry?
10 minutes in already, Jesus, and we haven't even gotten into the review. I didn't really like the way they handled the first Venom movie. I didn't like the goofy tone that they went with, the over-exaggerated facial expressions, people jumping into lobster tanks. I didn't really like how they represented Venom in the first movie, and I didn't really like how pointless most of the side characters were and how uncompelling the main villain was. And for the most part, frankly, those issues are still in the second movie and oftentimes heightened. I think this movie's biggest detriment is its runtime. It's incredibly short, which feels weird to say because I feel like with movies like this, I oftentimes feel like they could have easily cut it down by 20 or 30 minutes. The movie's only 90 minutes long, so everything blurs by so quickly that every other scene almost gives you whiplash. There were some really cool ideas that I was invested in and wanted to see this movie dive deeper into, but they kind of rush past everything, and so it doesn't give these ideas enough time to really develop. The movie feels a little bit more concerned about getting to the next action scene than it is concerned about developing the characters and the story. It blows by a lot of things that I find interesting and oftentimes lingers on the things that I don't. Not that some of the action scenes weren't done well, I think there was actually a lot of pretty well done action scenes, but if I don't care about these characters, then I'm not gonna care if they almost die, right? Odds are, if you liked the first movie, you're probably gonna like this one. Odds are you'll end up liking it a little bit more. Even I thought the things that they got right in the first one were done better in this movie. So, go watch it. I am going to loosely talk about spoilers from this point forward, so if you haven't seen the movie yet and you do care about spoilers, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and then pause the video. It feels like there's a lot of wasted potential here, right? I feel like the dynamic between Eddie and Venom is really interesting. The idea that Eddie doesn't want Venom with him anymore. He doesn't want this guy in his head always needing something, and Venom doesn't want to be attached to Eddie anymore because Eddie doesn't want to meet his needs, and I think that conflict can be really interesting. But of course they rush right past it. They end up splitting up and realizing that they need each other within the span of like 10 to 15 minutes, so it doesn't really make their low points feel earned. The romance dynamic between Cletus Cassidy and Shriek felt very unnecessary. It didn't help that they made Shriek's character very unlikable. Almost every line she has is either annoying or very cheesy, and of course the same thing could be said about most of the the characters in the movie, but especially the villains. Almost every line feels like a one-liner in this movie, which is my nightmare. Cletus Cassidy feels like an edgelord just constantly trying to say shit that he thinks sounds cool, which is very tedious. There was a number of times in this movie where they would whip out a one-liner and I would just sit there being like, oh man, they really said that. Also, the pacing feels really off in this movie. My girlfriend noticed it too. It felt like almost every scene was rushing to get to the next scene, and so it really is jarring, and again, kind of gives you that whiplash that I had mentioned before.
Not my fucking tempo!
They also do some kind of strange and redundant things, in my opinion. Like, there's a scene where Carnage breaks out of prison and destroys the prison that he was being held in, and then almost immediately, like 2 scenes later, he goes to the prison that his girlfriend's being held at and then destroys that prison. Which, I don't know, that just feels kind of weird to have 2 scenes almost back to back of Carnage destroying a prison. It just feels a little redundant, right? Also, Carnage figures out where his girlfriend is by shoving his goopy fingers into some random laptop, and he somehow gets access to like an FBI database with cliche hacker screens and everything. That's not how computers work. It's so silly. It's so silly. I don't understand. Also, I hate that we're continuing to use the trope of they're crazy because they are. They're crazy because they have bipolar disorder, because they were abused, or because they have schizophrenia. But like, it's deeper than that. They try to make you sympathize with Cletus Cassidy by explaining that he's a vicious murderer because he was abused as a child. But here's the thing. I know plenty of people that were abused by their families as children, and none of them turned out to be murderers. On the other hand, there's plenty of people that had perfect childhoods that turned out to be murderers. Obviously, child abuse and child psychology is much deeper than I'm qualified to talk about. But if you do want to talk about child abuse and you do want to explore these ideas and themes and use these ideas as the reason why he is the way that he is, then you got to explore it a little bit deeper than a single throwaway line towards the end of the movie. But I feel like I'm asking for too much out of a movie like this. The introduction of Carnage was pretty cool. I liked how scary they made his first moment on screen. I love how before they revealed him, he was masked by shadow and fog and blinking lights, and then he finally jumps through the door and it's loud and scary like a monster movie. There was like a 7-year-old kid in my theater sitting a few rows down from me, and I honestly was a little bit nervous for him. I thought maybe this movie would actually scare him a little bit. It didn't scare me though, obviously. What's happening here? But then the scene goes on for too long and shows him too much, and then he creates a tornado, and then Cletus throws out a shitty one-liner, and it just immediately took me out of the movie again. Oh, also, one of the first scenes of the movie, Eddie's ex-girlfriend from several years ago calls him up to have lunch with him to tell him that she's getting married. What are you doing? Why would you do that? If an ex did that to me, I would just be annoyed. Why would I want to know that? Why would I care? On top of this, she knows that Eddie's still in love with her. He admits that he's still in love with her. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Let him move on. Leave him alone. Also, the editing feels really off in a lot of places, and I'm sure a lot of that has to do with them cutting out some of the violence, but still, the way it was all cut out is very jarring and oftentimes confusing. Like, there's a scene at the end where Carnage picks up a priest, and then it cuts to Eddie yelling no, and then it cuts back to Carnage, and the priest is gone. Where'd the priest go? I just don't really understand how you could edit something so incompetent. And then there's the post-credit scene. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know how I feel about this version of Venom being our Venom for the MCU. The MCU has already departed so far from the Spider-Man comics. I just want an accurate Venom story for it, please. I want to see Peter get the symbiote and not have it be a goofy alien man in his head. I want to have Venom scary and conflicted. I want to like these characters again.
Eddie Brock isn't the same guy he once was.
Still, the movie wasn't terrible. There were things that I like, and it certainly wasn't the worst movie in the Spider-Man franchise. It was at least better than... But that's a topic for a different video. Though I don't know if I would ever really rewatch it. I think if a friend wanted to watch it with me, I would watch it with them. Or if I was covering it for a What Even Was video, then I probably would. But I don't know if I would ever go out of my way to see the movie again. I saw it. I got the idea. I think I'm good. But there you go. That's my thoughts on Venom, Let There Be Carnage. I just saw the movie, so my opinions may change in the future. Even just a couple of days from seeing the movie, my opinions have already changed. So, you know, Did you see it? Did you like it? Did you agree or disagree with me on any of my points? Go ahead and let me know, preferably respectfully, but I do read every comment and I do enjoy having these kind of conversations with you guys, so thank you for doing that. That's very fun for me. Also, I know it's been a hot minute since I've done my last Transformers review. I have good reason for that, and this one isn't a joke. I actually have good reason for that. I'm in the middle of moving, and honestly, I just haven't really had time to work on a video like that. The What Even Was videos, I go through almost every single scene in a movie, and then I condense it down into about 10 to 15 minutes, which is very time consuming. The editing process, I think on the last video I spent 22 hours editing, not to mention having to watch the movie and then write the review and then film it, which all of that alone is like another 5 hours. So to work on one of these videos, it takes me anywhere from like 20 to 26 hours. And just given how the next script is written, it's probably going to be my longest video yet, which means that the editing is going to be even longer. These types of videos are a little bit easier to make. They require me to not go and grab every single scene from a movie, which is nice. So I have a few options here. I can either not go through every single scene in the movie, which would be kind of relieving, or I could do a video like this talking about the movie, but maybe a little bit more in depth than this. Or alternatively, I can wait until I get an apartment and I'm settled down and life kind of goes back to normal, and then I can review the movie as God intended. But I leave that up to you guys. How would you guys prefer me to do the next Transformers review? Would you prefer something like this? Would you prefer what I've done in the past? A little bit of both? Let me know. That being said, this is the end of the video. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe if you wanna. I'm Matt Henderson. Thank you. You guys like the Blistex sticker I have on my wall? You guys like that? I don't know how that got there, but it's there. I think it makes the background more interesting.